What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another NBA mock draft video. If you've been following my, page or channel, this is a pretty common upload, or at least the theme of it. So we are doing another one. Of course, as always, I will be doing what I would do at each selection. If you guys want to see a more predictive one, let me know in the comments, or honestly, any suggestions of different video ideas, I am open to them. So we're going to get right into it. Hopefully you guys are doing well. A few of my previous mocks have some unorthodox selections, like, of course, it's based off my board, so of course there was some mixed comments and emotions in the comment section, at least on a video or two, but we're going to be doing the same thing on this one. It's probably going to spark some debate in the comments again, so I always encourage that, but we're going to get started number one overall with my guy from Duke, Mr. Boozer, the player of the year. A wingified version of Nikola Jokic, Kevin Love, perimeter-oriented, whatever you want to call him, a unique offensive engine that will be paired up with Anthony Davis for the short term and Alex Sarr for the long term, which honestly I'm a fan of. If I really had to choose a place for Boozer to flourish, I would love to see him in Memphis, which seems like a legitimate possibility, because next to Zach Edey, that'd be an outstanding offensive rebounding tandem, but in this mock, he is going to Washington to pair up with Davis, of course, but also a premier point guard in Trae Young, who, of course, kind of got salary dumped, but still a very talented player. So Boozer goes number one. And what really separates him, at least in my eyes, what separates him from Devonta, Peterson, Wilson, that next group, or that next three or four, is the processing feel combined with his size. And it's rare. For these type of guys to be able to operate, at least Boozer himself, as a pick-and-roll ball handler, but also as a roll man. He's effective in transition and post-ups as a spot-up player, and he is a strength-creating driver. So he is a shot creator, but with his strength. And the fact that people don't think he's going to be able to translate to the game is a bit interesting, and I can kind of touch on that because he is a false ceiling player. It was the same thing with Knipple last year, who honestly should have been Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, was a super impactful offensive player for the Hornets, but Boozer is another false ceiling guy, but to an even higher level, because analytically he is one of the best prospects that honestly we have ever seen, probably at least in the 2000s, but he is outstanding. He impacts winning in so many different ways. As an offensive rebounder, defensive rebounder, outlet passer, shooter, passer, processor, he's got it all. So Boozer goes number one here. Number two, we're going to go with the two-way movement shot maker in Darren Peterson, who is one of the better shooters, at least shooting prospects that we've seen in a while, because he got a bunch up at Kansas, but he also made a lot. And of course, he had the hamstring issues, and a lot of people thinking that he didn't want to play basketball, which is just insane, in my opinion. So Peterson's going to go to a Will Hardy system that is primarily focused around movement, but also a Utah roster that honestly has some upside next year, starting as soon as next year with Jaren Jackson just getting traded there. Keontae George had a breakout year on the offensive end, at least. Defensively, it's pretty bad. But Markkanen, of course, Walker Kessler, Ace Bailey had some moments for sure, but Utah, honestly, they have a roster that could be ready to win as soon as next year. Maybe not anything crazy, but Peterson, of course, his high is the offensive engine. It's just the question of, can he get back to that? Can he get back to that athleticism? Can he get back to pressuring the rim at the rate that he used to? Because, of course, in Kansas, he just wasn't able to consistently generate quality looks for himself or his teammates. But I'll say one thing to kind of touch on the playmaking value, because he had high usage, but he also rarely turned the ball over. So that's valuable in one part, but the assist volume was low. He kind of struggled to read these hard hedges and blitzes off of screens when he was getting double. So there are some worries about that, especially from a playmaking value and potentially being a lead guard. But defensively, he does a good job playing passing lanes, has some weak side rim protection prowess. And I thought he just was really impressive, and kind of, I guess, the limited time that we saw him. But even if he doesn't hit his highest outcome, this is a knockdown shooter that can create plays on the defensive end and get to the rim. So Peterson number 2 to Utah at number 3. We're going to go with A.J. Dybantsa from BYU. And he's an interesting one. He seems to be the consensus number 1. He is not for me. I can kind of touch on that real quick because I never want to be negative about these guys because they put so much work in. But Dybantsa he's probably a flawed primary in the league, fairly similar to Jaylen Brown. Dybantsa, he just doesn't get a lot of threes up. I wouldn't call him a great playmaker relative to his usage, and then defensively it's bad. Just up and down motor, doesn't really get physical, which pops up in his foul rate, which is really low, which is good, but honestly, you kind of want to see that be towards, maybe not like middle of the pack percentile, but you want to see him foul a little bit, just in terms of playing physical and actually showing some engagement on this end. But the positives, of course, if you're really high on him, the concept of him is essentially Jalen Brunson, but of course at 6'8". So a inside the arc scorer, highly efficient, can get to the rack, draws fouls at a high rate, and keeps turnovers low. So I do believe Dybantsa has a pathway to being a number 1. It's just he'll probably have to be surrounded pretty well, which honestly Memphis is a really good landing spot for any of these 3 guys, at least in my opinion, but Dybantsa in particular, at least for this mock, getting to play alongside Ty Jerome, Cam Spencer, Zach Edey, of course, the monster in the middle, Cedric Coward, Jalen Wells. Like, they have multiple guys ready to contribute as early as next year, and then adding a talent like Dybantsa could really start that fire and get them potentially into the play-in as early as next year. But Dybantsa, of course, extremely talented. Would not be shocked if he goes 1, of course, but we're going to try to speed it up a little bit. Number 4, we're going to go with Caleb Wilson. He fits that slap philosophy that Bryson Graham wants to build, so strength, length, athleticism, and physicality. I worry about the shooting projection with him, not going to lie. He has some moments on defense where it's kind of like, what are you doing? But of course, like, the highs are awesome. Like, he is an excellent weak side shot blocker, an excellent athlete out in transition, has some solid mid-range touch and post work, doesn't really turn it over, and is a really good play finisher. So he has value in that. One guy compared him to like a leaner, taller version of Aaron Gordon, which I can kind of see. I think Gordon's a little bit more laterally gifted, so we'll have to see what Wilson kind of comes in as. But really good play finisher, red hot motor. It's just there's some defensive lapses, and I worry about the shooting. But uber talented, excellent production as well at UNC. At number 5. Is the Clippers, and we are going to go with Ade Mara from Michigan, who is very capable of anchoring an elite defense as early as year 1, maybe. And if Kawhi's still there and they really truly believe in Darius Garland, which honestly I think they do, I do believe that Mara should be the selection here. Yannick Cody Niederhauser, he had a solid rookie year, but I don't think that should stop them from taking Mara at 5. Excellent shot blocker, of course, really impressive passer for his size, and of course he has the easiest shot diet potentially in the NBA from day 1. Finishing lobs and just dunking the ball. That's a lot of what he's going to do, but I do think he has some flashes on the low block. It's just we didn't get to see that a ton at Michigan, but of course he was more than willing to take a step back and win a championship. So he's always willing to do the little things that are required of a 7'4" mountain. So really impressed with Mara. At number 6 is the first. It's not random because Buka Okore is currently 5th on my board. We're going to go with him at 6'2" Brooklyn. In previous videos, I had Michael Brown. Kind of cooled off on him recently, but Okore is a paint touch demon. This is where he does most of his work. He gets downhill in transition. He's able to create downhill pressure in the half court, which is extremely valuable, especially in a postseason setting. And he's also not a negative on defense. His wingspan helps him out, but it's also the production on that end. He does a good job playing passing lanes and kind of getting out in transition off those turnovers and making plays happen. But he also has really good shooting indicators. He took a lot more threes in his pre-NCAA, I guess his high school work, of course, but he was kind of in a tough context at Stanford. There wasn't really a true lob threat on his team, so that kind of took away from his rim assists. So he was 11th percentile in rim assist percentage, which is not ideal for a point guard, but it also, you have to remember some of the context with him. So he's playing with a team that's not extremely athletic, so it's kind of tougher for him to create these easier looks, but he is getting downhill. He's got good touch, the best handle in the class, in my opinion, and overall, probably the best self-creator in the class. So really excited to see where Okore lands. If ideally, I would like to see him, I guess, later in the class, or later in the draft, which is probably going to happen, but I'm really glad that he stayed in the draft, because he is awesome. And I would, if you have not watched him, I would get to it. So at number 7, we are going to go with Kingston Flemings, who I was very high on, and then I kind of cooled off, and now I'm starting to understand the appeal with his athleticism and his feel combination. A guy who attacks early in the shot clock, is extremely quick downhill. The only thing with him, he's got to get more threes up. And with the Kings, that may be a perfect fit, because Kings are not going to be good. Ideally for Flemings, ideally for the Kings, this is your lead guard of the future. And Flemings, if there's any situation where you'll have the ultimate green light, it is Sacramento. So Flemings is really cerebral on the defensive end as well, creates a lot of plays. A mid-range maestro, I guess. I wasn't a huge fan of his shot diet. I would say as the competition grew, the rim finishing and kind of the getting downhill and playing with contact kind of wavered and got a little bit worse. But obviously he can put on weight in the NBA. That's going to happen. But of course, the main thing is he's got to get more threes up, and because I think his shot form's like honestly fairly similar to like Edgecombe. I think his hand placement's a little bit strange, but he's got good touch, gets downhill, doesn't really turn the ball over at all, and is a really good playmaker for his teammates, and carried a heavy burden for Kelvin Sampson. So another super impressive freshman guard that I think is very worthy of a top 10 selection. At number 8, we are going to go with Yaxel Lendeborg to the Hawks, who is the immediate impact playoff starter, in my opinion. I can't remember who it was. Somebody compared him to Derek White, but 6'9". And I could see that because he can legitimately guard 1 through 4 and maybe some 5. It's rare for these types of players to kind of come around, but knockdown shooter, connective passer, red hot motor on the glass. And obviously he played with Michigan, so like the rebounding numbers kind of dropped, but Lendeborg is an outstanding player, really good athlete, capable of chase down blocks and all these smaller things. And I know he's older, but he also started playing basketball, or organized basketball, at age 17. So his basketball age is younger, of course, if you want to get really technical, but he has made excellent leaps every single year of his college career. And he's another one that should be taken a lot higher than he probably will be taken. But Yaxel to Atlanta at number 8 there. And another older player is going to go here at number 9. My guy from Iowa, Bennett Sturtz. Poise, calm. That is essentially his game. One of the best decision makers in the class. He does not turn the ball over. Gets a bunch of threes up. And he honestly, out of all the guards, I think he has the most complete shot profile. So 70% at the rim, and a lot of these are self-created. He is screen reliant in a half-court setting, which is okay, and ideally or realistically, he's not going to be taken this high. He's older. Of course, he's not the greatest athlete, but ideally for him, he's going to get paired up with maybe like Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Toronto was another spot that would be really ideal for him, in my opinion, but I would honestly take him at 9. To pair him with Cooper Flagg, Kyrie Irving, if he's still there. They have a solid roster that I think is built to compete, and I think just adding another guy who is immediately going to come in and impact your team is really would be smart for Dallas. But Sturtz, like I think there is a star profile in there, like to an extent, not to an extent, but like statistically, he does compare to Jalen Brunson just by the numbers in terms of the shot profile, the 2-point scoring. Gets a bunch of threes up, but Sturtz, like, he's one that's extremely scalable and can play off the ball, but also probably take that workload on the ball. So I'm excited to see where he lands. He kind of reminds me of Ty Jerome. He's Ty Jerome plus, because I think his because this guy does not turn it over, and I think he's a more complete scorer at every level than at least Jerome coming out of school. So Sturts to Dallas there at number 9. I know I said I'm going to speed it up. We're going to try it again here. But Michael Brown at number 10 to the Bucks. I saw a video that they took an in-home meeting to Michael's family in Orlando, I want to say. So there is definitely some interest there. Michael Brown is one of the more higher upside lead guards in this class. Gets a bunch of threes up. Really good playmaker. Just the only problem with him, like, he turns it over a lot. Was really streaky during the season. And then defensively, he definitely has some problems. But he also doesn't really have like a mid-range game. So that kind of worries me in terms of like just the counters. Because if he is getting downhill a lot, especially against better defenders though, like what's he going to do? So he's got to kind of add that in-between game, whether it's a float game. But one guy that for sure can probably go as high as 5 realistically, which if I had to guess, I think he ends up in LA or Brooklyn. But honestly, Michael is, of course, uber talented. He dealt with some back injury during the season, so he's a wild card. But the upside is there. So I'm definitely fine with taking him with a top 10 selection. It just depends on who it is. But I think Milwaukee would be a really good landing spot for him, especially, I mean, even if Giannis is gone, still really good. But playing alongside Ryan Rollins, and of course Taylor Jenkins is the head coach there. I think that'd be a really solid fit for them, short term and potentially long term, of course. But number 11, we are going to Golden State. We are going to select, where did he go? My guy from Santa Clara, Mr. Allen Graves, the marginal monster, the possession maxer. So he is a 99th percentile steal rate guy, 87th percentile block rate, and a 99th percentile offensive rebounder and ball security player. So that is essentially, like, ideally on paper, the perfect role player. He knocks down threes as well. He's a solid passer, plays passing lanes with great anticipation. The only issue, I guess, with him is he's not a great athlete. So slower footed. I think pairing him alongside, if Porzingis returns, could be really nice. No idea if Draymond Green's returning either, but those two can probably play in, like, what, maybe not in the same lineups, but like Graves has some Draymond to him because I comped him in my, I guess, draft file that I posted on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, wherever I put it. But Graves is really impressive, and like this is a playoff impact player in my opinion. And there's just so many of the little things that he does right that impact us winning, and I don't think people realize like how good he is until he gets to the league, and then in a playoff setting when he's making these plays, like I feel like it's almost inevitable, and he's really special in this regard. And I really like the landing spot there for Golden State. At number 12 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. We are going to go with Hans Steinbach. Of course, in real life, I don't know if OKC is going to be able to keep both of their picks just because of all the money that it's going to bring in, but this is a mock draft, who cares? But Steinbach, really good rebounder, solid transition player, good scoring touch, at least in my opinion, in that kind of short 2 area, solid free throw shooter. So I think there is some shooting indicators. He took a few this past year, hit a few, nothing too crazy, but of course, like being paired up with ideally Chet Holmgren can kind of mask the defensive issues that he kind of has. I think he moves a lot better than what he's given credit for, but Steinbach, like that, you're drafting him to be a physical rebounder on both ends of the floor and make a play in the short roll, hopefully knock down a 3 at some point and finish some plays on the interior. At 13, we're going to go with Keaton Wagler from Illinois. The viewpoint with him, at least for me, is a connective guard, wing, maybe, in some lineups, as a guy who doesn't really turn it over, crashes the offensive glass, and is a knockdown shooter from deep, off the catch, and off the dribble. So really solid team defender as well. He takes charges. I just don't see the lead guard profile because the 2-point scoring was pretty bad. Also, he didn't have a single dunk this year at 6'6", which is a little bit interesting, but um, he just struggles to blow by these better defenders. But I love the way that he plays, the kind of the pace that he plays with, plays at his own speed, and but really good shooter, and should be an impactful starter at some point, in my opinion. At 14, we're going to go with Jaden Quaintance. If there's any guy that is the wild card of the class, I know I mentioned it with Michael Brown, but Quaintance is even more of a wild card because he probably has the highest defensive upside of anybody in this entire class, just from his combination of movement skills and the shot blocking, his frame at 6'9" with like a 7'5" wingspan at like 250 pounds, which is just nuts. So Quaintance moves really well when he is healthy. Offensively, I think he has some driving skills and as a play finisher, can put it on the ground a little bit. So, and is a decent passer, maybe out of the short roll. But the Hornets, you see how good Moussa Diabate was for them, and I'm guessing if the Hornets were to take him, at least for me, that's kind of the vision that I see with him, a guy that sprints the floor hard, protects the rim, and just does a lot of little things of kind of the smaller fives, but also being able to switch out onto guards and kind of funnel them to potentially another rim protector with Ryan Kalkbrenner. But Quaintance is really special on the defensive end. I just really hope he stays healthy. At 15, we are going to go with LeBaron Philon from Alabama. I have questions about Philon just in terms of, like, is he essentially a product of Nate Oates' system, who is an outstanding coach, in my opinion. But Philon, he, of course, a sophomore, was asked to go back to school and get more threes up, and that's exactly what he did, converted a lot more, was a really good kick-out passer, really solid playmaker for their team. But Nate Oates is a wizard or offensive scheme wizard, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But Philon, like, he's good. He's a really talented, crafty scorer, but a lot of his stuff was very screen reliant, that's okay. Like, I'm not gonna hate on that. It's tough to find like these elite self creators that don't need a screen. But Philon, like, his first year, he was kind of the two guard next to Mark Sears, and his steal percentage jumped. But this past year with a higher workload, and of course those numbers kind of dropped, and there are definitely questions about that, of course, and of course his BMI. Like, he's 6'2", 6'3" maybe, and a $170. So like, he's just not. So there's questions about like his offensive scoring arsenal kind of translating to the league. So, and I kind of share those concerns. But at 15, I think that'd be a really solid fit for Chicago, who ends up with Caleb Wilson at 4 and Philon at 15. So really good haul for them. Another team who is about to have their second first-round pick, the Memphis Grizzlies, after taking A.J. DeBonsa at 3. We are going to go with Morez Johnson Jr. from Michigan to pair up with Zach Edey in that front court and build an absolutely menacing offensive rebounding tandem in the middle there. So Morez has got some beef stew comps. Isaiah Stewart, of course, from Detroit, is a 6'9", 6'10" guy who can really move well, protects the rim at a high level, runs the floor extremely hard. From an energy standpoint, defensive standpoint, like, this is exactly what you want out of kind of your four-man, who is kind of switchable out on the perimeter as well, strong, physical play finisher, who finished at the rim a lot better than he did the previous year, but of course, better system. Like, a lot of his stuff is assisted, him just finishing plays, which is totally fine. And I would really take Morez this high. Like, he is a truly special kind of energy player. So Morez at 16. At 17, where's my guy? Daywin Swain from Texas, he's higher on my board as opposed to his draft position in this mock, of course. But I wrote a report on him, and he has the star profile for a wing, kinda. He just turns it over a lot. And the main thing with him, at least what I want to see, is like the three-point hesitancy it directly ties to the turnover percentage. Out of all like the main first-round draft prospects on, I believe it was Draft Power's board, so their site is obviously awesome, but Swain had the highest creation turnover percentage. So when he's looking to create, he was turning it over just under 13% of those times, which is not ideal. But that directly ties to the three-point hesitancy, and that's the main swing factor in my opinion. Like, he's got to be ready on the catch, and his form or his shot preparation is a little bit slow. The mechanics are slow. Like, it's tough, but he's an outstanding driver and ISO creator. Has good free throw touch as well. So like there are indicators of him being a potential shooter in the league, and a lot of like the ancillary production that he has as a defensive rebounder, creating steals. At least at Xavier, the numbers were a lot better. Of course, when the workload jumps, like those numbers drop pretty naturally. So, but in OKC, of course, he would scale back as kind of the off-ball wing, and I think that could be beneficial for him in the short term. But Swain is a really fun one, and I have some pretty solid hope that he ends up turning into maybe a star at some point. Maybe not in OKC, but Swain, really impressive player. If you have not watched him, he's another one. Definitely get to him. But we're going to try to speed through these last couple. Darius Acuff at 18, a guy who doesn't turn it over. Just not a fan of the defensive upside and kind of the, at least a lot of guys that I'm not a biomechanics expert by any means, but doesn't really have like this crazy bend that you want to see in your lead guard creators, but nonetheless, excellent playmaker, lob thrower, was on a heater this past year from three. I don't know how real that is, but he also just struggled in the half court to kind of create. Like, a lot of the Calipari system is heavily transition based, so there may be some inflation from that. But Acuff, of course, tough bucket getter, good passer, defense just not there. At 19, we're going to go with Christian Anderson. Probably one of the better shooting outlooks in the class, maybe the best one. Solid playmaker, big-time shooter from three, just on the lighter side. Defensive problems are going to pop up as well, and doesn't really get to the rim at a high level. He finished at the rim at like a 72% clip, but like he was barely getting there, so definitely questions about his rim pressure, but still an impressive shooter, and Toronto needs that big time. At 20, we're going to go with Braden Burries, who is an older freshman, kind of a jack of all trades, so that kind of makes me think, like, what's his calling card? Like, what's that one trait that stands out statistically? And there just wasn't really anything. He hit threes at a good level. I'm not sure how, like, real that is, but kind of a smaller combo off guard. He gets a lot of comps to Derek White. Kind of see it, I guess, to an extent. But at Arizona, he was a pretty solid rebounder for his position. Really good transition player. Knocked down threes. Was efficient at every level of the floor, if I'm not mistaken. So he just needs to stay in that off-ball role. And, of course, in San Antonio, that's pretty realistic. At 21, we have the Detroit Pistons, and we're going to go with Isaiah Evans. They need more shooting. Of course, ideally, I wanted to go like Sturts or Christian Anderson or maybe even Phylon, but we're going to go with Evans here as just another guy that can knock down a three and continue to space the floor for an offense that got very stagnant at bad times in the playoffs. So, yeah. At 22, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, and we are going to go with Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's, a bruiser who is like 6'7.5" with a 7'2" wingspan, 245 pounds, I want to say. So he's an interesting build, but he is a bruiser, crashes the offensive glass, a really solid positional passer, creates plays on the defensive end, took a few threes. You're not going to see him hit a lot, but Philly needs some more physicality on the interior, in my opinion. So Ejiofor brings that from day one. At 23, we're going to go with Henry Vesar. Ideally, they go with another guard. It's not, I mean, granted, it's what I would do. I would take a guard at 8, but Yaxel he's 6th on my board, so I took him. But 23, we're going to go with Vesar. He's a unique big because we've seen him kind of run like handle ball screens out of like these horns actions with Caleb Wilson, which is really unique for a 7-footer. But he can step out, hit a three, block a shot here and there, decent rebounder, just not very physical. So he'd be a solid backup big that can, or stretch five that can come in, bring you some versatility, maybe even as a short roll hub, but also handling in these interesting like 4-5 or 5-4 situations because he's obviously a 5. But Vesar is an interesting one, definitely worth a first rounder in my opinion. At 24, where is he? Chris Sinak. We're gonna go with Chris Sinak from Houston. He's definitely a long-term player. I think New York can afford that. They took Pacom Dadier. He's another long-term guy. I wonder how much time he gets next year. But Sinak, active defender, got better as a rebounder throughout the year, and he's a very willing shooter, not very solid, at least conversion-wise, but plays with a pretty solid motor. You just want to see that consistently pop up more. And New York is obviously they're going to need some big man depth, especially if Mitchell Robinson's out of there. But Sinak is a talented long-term prospect with a crazy wingspan as well. At 25, I am torn. I also think I actually took the wrong guy at 21. But it's whatever. Let's do Kareem Lopez. Wrote a report on him. Don't have a ton of knowledge about him, but the best Mexican prospect ever, pretty sure. So that's pretty cool. But he's kind of a powerfully built wing forward kind of player. Like he can dribble, pass, and shoot like a lot of guys are kind of described as, which doesn't really mean a lot, but good potential as a kind of defensive playmaker. Not the greatest mover out in space, but can be a connector on offense and make a play off the bounce. Like he's definitely got some work to do, but pretty solid player for sure. Number 26, we're going to go with Malik Thomas. Kind of as an off guard, doesn't have a bunch of creation, but really good indicators as a shooter. Was a really solid free throw shooter. At Arkansas, was a knockdown 3-point shooter. I believe he shot 41% on pretty solid volume. Just not a great guy getting downhill, but he creates some plays on the defensive end and doesn't really turn it over either. So that's valuable, at least in my opinion. Just keeping the ball away, being able to knock down shots and create some turnovers on the defensive end from here and there. So Malik Thomas paired alongside Jokic would, of course, be an ideal fit for just about anybody, but we're going to go with him there at 26. Then at 27, we have the Boston Celtics, and we are going to go... Oh, God. Who did I take? Who should I take? At 27. I'm trying to remember. Joshua Jefferson. That's who it was. Okay. So I kind of went through this just to make sure I didn't have any long pauses like I am doing right now. But Jefferson's a unique one. Kind of wish I went with Terrace Reed there instead. So, but regardless, Jefferson is a unique player. Pretty solid playmaker for his position. Has a decent handle, can knock down a three. The shooting indicators aren't great, but he makes plays on the defensive end despite his kind of athletic limitations, but he's physical. Is able to block a shot or two and kind of get in there and do some of the dirty work, and landing in Boston would be really ideal for him long term. So at 28, we're going to go with Cam Carr. I guess that's kind of stops the fall of him. I'm not the biggest fan of Carr just because he doesn't really rebound on the offensive side very well. He's high hip defensively, so he's prone to getting blown by, but really emphatic shot blocker when he does get the chance to kind of show off his athleticism. Really explosive dunker, play finisher, really good shooter as well on high volume. So that's kind of his calling card there, what you want to see. Big time shooter, transition player. Just doesn't really sell me with like the playmaking is not really there. Not really a self creator in any right, but Cam Carr at 28, T-Wolves get a little bit more shooting on the wing. Number 29 is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we are going to go with Nate Ament. So I guess that stops a pretty big fall. Of course, from what I've read, he may go here at 6 to the Brooklyn Nets, which he's probably going to go lotto. He's 6'10", good positional size, was a really high recruit, so GMs seem to gravitate towards that. But Ament, good positional size, he drew a lot of fouls. I think he's a decent passer. Some of the decision making is just bad. Decent rebounder as well, solid defender with some pretty decent shooting indicators, but the self-creation is just not there. Was just inefficient from just about everywhere. It was 51% at the rim at 6'10", which is not ideal, and his shot diet was heavily mid-range attempts, which is not good. So, of course, in Cleveland, he's not going to be asked to do that, which is good. You don't want that from Nate Ament, at least in my opinion. But we're going to go with him at 29. And to close out the first round, I just did my shooting guard rankings, I guess, today for the draft. And we are going to go with Mr. Richie Saunders from BYU, who is going to be 25 on opening night and coming off an ACL injury, but big-time shooter, can attack a closeout, doesn't really turn it over, and is a really solid team defender with a red-hot motor and plays passing lanes and has really good hands. Saunders is an impressive player who I would probably take, realistically, with one of these first 8 to 10 picks in the second round, personally. But big fan of Saunders for sure. But we're going to scroll back through this mock draft here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, it's another mock, pretty common on this page, or channel. But any future ideas for another video I am open to. I would really appreciate a like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. So I'm not going to get mad if you didn't enjoy it, but of course, God bless as always. I will see you guys in the next video.